you know I'm addicted to you. And it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil.
A middle-aged man stepped out of his luxury car. Two large-bodied aides dressed in all black immediately bowed and stood behind him. Ganju gazed at the modest house in front of him. It wasn't big, but it exuded a warm and lush atmosphere, thanks to the many potted flowers that adorned it. Ganju took off his sunglasses and confidently walked into the yard. The wooden door opened after he knocked a few times. Mr. Ganju, why didn't you tell me you were coming? Asked Park Dongmin, surprised and slightly uncomfortable seeing the rich man at his humble home. Ganju gave a faint smile. Don't feel so uneasy. Your father worked for my father, not you. Even so, you're still someone I respect, Dongmin replied with a warm smile, bowing slightly. Ganju's smile widened, revealing his charm despite being nearly 50. He had always admired Dongmin's humility. Aren't you going to let me in? Dongmin hurriedly opened the door wider and invited Ganju inside. Although they'd known each other for years, this was the first time Ganju had entered Dongmin's home. Ganju calmly sat on the sofa while Dongmin quickly headed to the kitchen to fetch some refreshments. He returned with a tray of tea and snacks, placing them carefully before his esteemed guest. Please, Mr. Ganju, this is all I can offer, Dongmin said apologetically, setting down a glass of tea and a jar of biscuits. Ganju, sensing Dongmin's discomfort, smiled warmly. Thank you. I love tea and biscuits. This is perfect for me. His words bring relief to Dongmin. Both men were now seated on the sofa. I wanted to talk about my father's will, Ganju began, pausing when he noticed Dongmin's confused expression. It concerns our children, he added. Dongmin immediately understood. But are you sure you want to fulfill that part of the will? He asked cautiously. What do you mean? Ganju replied, his tone serious. I mean, are you certain about going through with the arrangement despite the vast difference in our family's status? I just don't want people to gossip about you for not marrying Jungkook off to someone of equal standing, Dongmin explained quickly, hoping to avoid misunderstanding. Ganju let out a deep sigh. I don't care about social status. What matters is fulfilling our father's wish to unite our families through marriage, and you shouldn't feel inferior. Ignore what others may say. I don't care either. Your family has always been kind, and your father has done so much for me. I have no reason to reject the will. Dongmin felt touched by Ganju's words, realizing just how kind and fair the man before him was. Thank you, Mr. Ganju. Well then, let's talk to our children first before moving forward. Hopefully, they won't oppose it, Dongmin said, feeling relieved. Of course, Jungkook won't refuse, Ganju replied with a mysterious smile. And Yin is an obedient girl. I'm sure she'll follow whatever you say. Yin's grandfather had worked as a bodyguard for Jungkook's grandfather. Despite the servant-master relationship, the two were more like friends due to the small age gap between them. One day, Jungkook's grandfather was lured into a trap by an enemy and ended up in an old house that was set on fire. Of all the bodyguards who eventually found and rescued their master, it was Yin's grandfather who played the most crucial role. The rescue was dramatic. Jungkook's grandfather was saved with only minor burns and slight smoke inhalation. However, Yin's grandfather suffered serious burns while protecting his master and had to be rushed to the hospital to prevent the situation from becoming fatal. Since that incident, Jungkook's grandfather felt he owed his life to Yin's grandfather. But Yin's grandfather insisted it was his duty to protect his master, even at the cost of his life. From that moment on, Jungkook's grandfather decided to arrange a marriage between their grandchildren, ensuring the bond between the two families would remain strong. After agreeing to their father's plan from the past, Ganju finally took his leave. They would discuss this matter with their children. Later that afternoon, Yin sat nervously on the sofa. Earlier, after she returned from work, her father had told her to freshen up quickly because there was something important he wanted to talk about. Are you serious, Dad? Why does it have to be Jungkook? Why not someone else? Yin asked. Dongmin chuckled softly. Your grandfather's will was for you to marry Jungkook, not someone else. Who did you hope to be arranged with, Yin? Dongmin teased with a playful smile. Yin scowled, annoyed. That's not what I meant, Dad. But, never mind, she replied vaguely, feeling confused about what to say. Dongmin laughed quietly. His daughter could act mature at times but also childlike. Seeing Yin's beautiful face reminded him of his late wife. Their faces were so similar. Perhaps God made them look alike so that every day Dongmin could see Yin's mother through her. Jungkook is a good man. You've known him for a long time. Even though he's quiet and somewhat cold, I'm sure he'll treat women well, especially his wife. And since this is your grandfather's will, you can't refuse it, Dongmin said, smiling. Treat women well? Yeah, right, Yin thought bitterly. She could never forget what had happened back in high school. Flashback. A handsome boy stood in the middle of the court with a pretty girl in front of him, her head bowed, smiling shyly. Jungkook looked at her with disinterest. He had been about to head home when the girl insisted and begged him to come to the court. And now here he was. Jungkook sighed in frustration as he realized the situation he was in. What is it? Jungkook asked coldly. The girl looked nervous, fiddling with her uniform skirt. There's something I want to tell you. The cheers of the girl's friends rang out loudly. Jungkook felt irritated. They had become a spectacle. He scanned the court and noticed Yin standing among the crowd. Their eyes met briefly before Jungkook looked away. Hurry up, you're just wasting my time, Jungkook snapped. The pretty girl in front of him became even more nervous. In truth, she was afraid of Jungkook, who was infamous for being cold and aloof. But she had to do this. Will you be my boyfriend? She asked quickly. Jungkook could hear the noise behind her grow louder as the girl's friends urged him to accept Yerin, the school's star. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Barely holding back his irritation, Jungkook answered coldly, no. Instantly, the cheers stopped, replaced by silence. Yin frowned. Jungkook rejected Yerin? No way. Secretly, she felt sorry for Yerin. Being rejected in front of everyone like this was humiliating. Besides, the girl had been bold to confess to him, knowing his untouchable reputation. Yerin, who had been looking down, finally raised her head. Why? She asked, her eyes filling with tears. She wasn't heartbroken, just embarrassed. Yerin had confessed to Jungkook in front of a crowd, hoping it would force him to accept her. With her beautiful face, Yerin was confident that Jungkook would soon be hers. But now, Jungkook had casually rejected her, the school's princess, leaving her utterly humiliated. Jungkook sneered internally, growing even more disgusted with the girl as he saw her eyes fill with tears. But why? Jungkook, Yerin asked once again. Why? That's what you're asking. Jungkook smirked, deliberately repeating her question. Look at yourself. Do you really think you're worthy of standing by my side? He added arrogantly. No one was surprised. Jungkook was notorious for his sharp tongue and arrogance. It was part of his well-known personality at school. He only showed his kinder side to his closest friends. With the last bit of courage she had, Yerin met Jungkook's gaze. I am worthy of being with you. I'm beautiful. I'm also smart. No one else is more suited to be your girlfriend than me, Yerin replied, not willing to back down. Jungkook's condescending smile grew wider. How dare she speak to him like that? He was truly disgusted. Oh really? Who told you that you're beautiful? You're so full of yourself. To me, you're not beautiful at all. Definitely not my type. And even worse, you're so full of pride that you don't realize how rotten your heart is. At least if you're poor, you should be a good person. Don't use people. Poor and deceitful. Such a perfect combination for you. I hate poor girls like you. Gold digger. After insulting her, Jungkook walked away. He glanced at Yin briefly. Once again, their eyes met before he left. Yin was shocked, unable to believe Jungkook would insult a girl like that. She knew he was cold and distant, but Yin also knew that deep down, Jungkook was a good person. So why had he lashed out at Yerin like that? So, Jungkook doesn't like poor girls? And he thinks poor girls are gold diggers? That was what Yin thought. But then she sighed. It makes sense. Jungkook is incredibly wealthy, so of course he'd want to be with someone of equal status, to keep things balanced. Flashback ends. If I marry him, I need to have my own income. I don't want to be seen as a gold digger by Jungkook later, Yin mumbled. Her father had already gone to his bedroom. There was really no choice but to accept this arranged marriage. Yin worked as a private employee at an advertising company with a salary that wasn't very high, but she was grateful to be able to help support her family, which was just getting by. Meanwhile, Jungkook wore a faint smile as his father spoke about wanting to arrange his marriage to Yin. If you're smiling like that, it means you agree, right? His father asked, trying to suppress a smile. I'm not smiling. Who said I was smiling? Jungkook retorted, as he indeed had a high sense of pride. Ganju laughed at his son's response. Come on, stop denying it. Don't think I don't know that you've been secretly watching Yin all this time, he teased. Jungkook lazily glanced at his father, who was still chuckling. He knew that his father would quickly find out who he liked. Yes, his father was too clever to be deceived. Ganju gently patted Jungkook's shoulder. This is your grandfather's will. We all know that Yin's family has greatly contributed to ours. So, I hope that once you're married, you'll treat Yin as well as you can. Don't disappoint me, your mother, or your grandfather. Ganju smiled as he looked at his only son. His heart ached. If only his wife were still alive, she would be so proud to see their beloved son managing the family business so well. Of course, Jungkook replied firmly. He would not let the people he cared about down. Finally, the wedding between Jungkook and Yin took place. The ceremony was simple and private, with only family and close friends in attendance. This was done to protect Yin from Jungkook's family's enemies. The girl, who now bore the title of Mrs. Jeon, insisted on continuing to work even though her husband was incredibly wealthy. Because of this, Jungkook wanted Yin to be able to move freely and comfortably outside without being bothered by his enemies. The ceremony had just ended, and now the two were having a meal together. Suddenly, Jungkook remembered something. "Do you want us to live in the mansion or the apartment?" Jungkook asked after the wedding celebration ended. Yin thought for a moment, her brow furrowing and eyes narrowing. "In the apartment," Yin replied. She wanted to live independently. If they lived in the mansion, there would be so many maids, and she would become too dependent. "Okay." Jungkook dialed a few numbers on his phone. "Prepare an apartment unit in the city center. I want it ready for us to move in tonight," Jungkook ordered Lee, his assistant. Yin stared at him in disbelief. "Is that easy?" He bought an apartment like he was buying snacks from a street vendor. The mindset of the rich was something Yin couldn't comprehend. But she quickly reminded herself not to get swept away by his wealth. "Sorry, I didn't know you had to buy an apartment first. If there isn't one available, we can stay at the mansion," Yin said, feeling a bit uneasy. "It's fine. Besides, I've been thinking it wouldn't hurt to have an apartment. I've focused my investments in other areas until now, so buying an apartment isn't an issue." Yin nodded briefly, not wanting to comment further. She didn't want to seem like the kind of wife who meddles with her husband's assets. Jungkook sat on the sofa, unbuttoning the first of buttons of his shirt once they were in the apartment. Yin looked around. The apartment was truly luxurious and spacious, even though it wasn't fully furnished yet, considering Jungkook had just bought it. Jungkook noticed Yin still standing beside him. "Why are you just standing there? Come here." Jungkook patted the empty space next to him. Feeling nervous, Yin slowly sat down beside him. She looked down, too shy to meet his intense gaze. Jungkook gave a faint smile, admiring her beauty from the side. Her cheeks flushed, making her even more mesmerizing. Jungkook gently held her chin, turning her face toward him. "What are you thinking about?" The low, deep timbre of his voice made her mind go blank. For a moment, Yin froze. From this close, Jungkook's handsomeness multiplied several times. "Nothing," Yin replied, her eyes lowering again, too shy to look at him. God, her heart felt like it was going to burst out of her chest every time their eyes met. "Then why do you always look down when talking to me?" Jungkook lifted her chin again, this time not letting her look away, his hand holding her face steady. "You don't want to look at your handsome husband?" Jungkook teased with a small smirk. Yin squinted, wondering when Jungkook, the cold and distant man, became so confident. Jungkook chuckled softly. "Look into my eyes when you're with me," he said. Almost hypnotized, Yin nodded. She could feel his previously sharp gaze softening. He closed the distance between them. Yin was startled but couldn't back away. Jungkook held her chin firmly yet gently, not hurting her. Her breath hitched as their faces were just inches apart. She could feel his mint-scented breath on her skin. Her breath caught when his lips touched hers, just for a moment. "I want you now." His husky voice was the last thing Yin heard before he kissed her again, this time more deeply. It's already been 2 weeks since Jungkook and Yin became husband and wife. They continued living their usual lives. Jungkook remained busy with his family business and his mafia organization, while Yin kept working as an employee at a private company. Jungkook leaned against the headboard of their bed, turning as the bathroom door opened, revealing Yin walking out with a slight limp. "Did he go overboard earlier? Did it hurt a lot?" Jungkook asked with concern. Yin shot Jungkook a sharp look, preparing to lay down for the night. "What do you think?" Yin responded curtly. She had initially thought Jungkook wouldn't want to touch her, given how cold and quiet he was, and they rarely even talked. But ever since that first night, Jungkook kept asking for that every night, almost without fail. "I'm sorry if I got carried away and was too rough," Jungkook admitted, feeling guilty. After all, his wife was so tempting in his eyes, and he couldn't resist sharing that warmth with her every night. Yin sighed, resigned. She couldn't get mad. It would be a waste of energy. Besides, it wasn't entirely Jungkook's fault, because she enjoyed it too. "It's fine, but just don't overdo it next time, okay? Especially since I have to go to work in the morning," Yin said, pouting. Honestly, if she could take the day off, she would. Unfortunately, an important report required her to be at the office. "All right," he nodded. Jungkook smiled, watching Yin as she adjusted her sleeping position. "Yin, have you ever thought about quitting your job?" Jungkook's question stopped Yin in her tracks. She was now lying down, trying to meet her husband's gaze. "Why? You don't like that I'm working?" Yin asked. "No, it's not that. I just noticed you seem really tired after work." Yin stared at Jungkook for a long moment. There was a reason she needed to work. Even though Jungkook had given her money for the past 2 weeks, Yin saved it without using it. She was still using her own money, without Jungkook's knowledge. She didn't want to be labeled as a gold digger by him. The memory from a few years ago still lingered in her mind. I want to keep working, Jungkook. I'd get bored to death if I stayed home all day, Yin said, keeping her real reasons to herself. Jungkook exhaled slowly. Alright then, but please, don't exhaust yourself. Jungkook softly stroked Yin's hair, sending a warm sensation through her heart. Yin nodded, her face flushing red. Jungkook smiled faintly, then reached for his wallet on the nightstand and pulled something out. Here, use this wisely. He planted a brief kiss on Yin's forehead as he placed a card in her hand before getting up and heading to the bathroom in their bedroom. Yin was stunned, staring at the black card in her hand. Oh god, had Jungkook just given her a black card? How could this be? Why is he being so generous? The money he gave me earlier was a large amount, and now he's giving me a black card. Yin frowned. She was genuinely confused by Jungkook's behavior. Is Jungkook testing me? Is he trying to see if I'm a gold digger by giving me a black card? Yin muttered to herself, her mind racing. Yes, that must be it. I'd better just keep it safe. Yin tucked the card into the deepest pocket of her wallet, shuddering at the thought of it falling out. Enough, Yin. Don't overthink it. You should get some rest and sleep. You have to work tomorrow, Yin told herself. A few minutes later, she fell asleep without waiting for Jungkook to return from the bathroom. She was too exhausted and already feeling drowsy. Yin walked lightly into the yard of a modest house. It had been a long time since she had seen her father. Since her marriage, this was the first time she visited. Work had been piling up, and Jungkook's occasional clinginess, always wanting to be with her, had left her with little time to visit her father. From afar, Yin was startled by the sound of something falling. She rushed inside and screamed when she saw her father collapsed on the floor. Dad. Yin ran to him. Dad. What happened? Who are they? Yin asked worriedly. In front of her stood 2 large men, and another man sat calmly on the sofa. Oh, so this is your daughter? Asked the man sitting leisurely, giving Yin a sinister smile. Bravely, Yin stood up, helping her father to his feet. Yes, I'm his daughter. What business do you have with my father? The man chuckled. Ask your dear father. Yin turned and saw her father's battered face, his lips slightly split. I borrowed money from a loan shark. Her father's words shocked her. How had her father ended up in debt to these awful people? Her questioning gaze must have been understood by her father. My business has been struggling, sweetheart. Sales of fried chicken have dropped. I've been losing money, so I had no choice but to borrow from the loan shark, Dongmin explained softly. Yin's heart sank, throbbing with pain. Why didn't you tell me, Dad? I didn't want to. You used to be my responsibility, and you shouldn't have to deal with this problem. I'll bear it myself. Now that you're married, I don't want to burden you with this, her father replied, despair written on his face. Yin held back her tears. Her father had always appeared fine, but it turned out he had been carrying this burden alone. Yin felt useless as a daughter, even though her father had always tried to provide for her. I'll pay it off, Yin said firmly to the man sitting on the sofa. Can you really? The debt is huge, the loan shark sneered, looking down on her. I doubt you can pay it. I can, Yin replied, though there was a hint of doubt in her eyes. The loan shark stared at her for a moment. I don't believe you. Unless you have collateral. Perhaps this house? Give me the deed. Yin shook her head. Not this house, of course. She couldn't let the house be used as collateral, especially if it might be taken away. Even though she would try to find a way to pay it off, she couldn't bear the thought of her father losing his home, the only place he had left. Then what? The loan shark asked, raising an eyebrow challengingly. Yin was confused, thinking hard. Suddenly, her eyes landed on the diamond ring on her finger, the wedding ring Jungkook had given her. Maybe it was okay to use it as collateral, Yin thought. Without hesitation, she took off the ring. Sweetheart, don't. Her father tried to stop her, but Yin didn't listen. This, take it, Yin said, handing over the ring. One of the large men stepped forward, took the diamond ring, and handed it to the boss on the sofa. His eyes lit up as he touched the expensive ring. Wow, this is really valuable. Is your husband rich? He asked, surprised. Panic washed over Yin, and she quickly shook her head. There was no way she could tell the truth. Yin was terrified the loan shark might go after Jungkook. No. My husband's poor. He got the ring by stealing it from a jewelry store. He's not rich at all, Yin lied. Her father, Dongmin, just shook his head beside her. His daughter was truly bold and reckless. The loan shark burst out laughing. Whatever. I don't care. If you can't pay off your father's debt in a month, this ring will be mine. With that, he stood up and ordered his 2 henchmen to leave. They all exited the house immediately. Sweetheart, You shouldn't have given them the ring. What if Jungkook gets angry? Dongmin asked worriedly. Dad, you don't need to worry. That will be my problem. I can handle it. The important thing now is finding the money to pay off your debt, Yin replied gently. Dongmin looked at his daughter, feeling guilty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that because of me, you're in this difficult situation. It's okay, Dad. Just pray I can get the money quickly. Since that incident, Yin started working overtime more often. She needed extra money to settle her father's debt. Her body was exhausted, but she had no choice. Yin came home late every night. Of course, Jungkook was worried, especially seeing how worn out Yin looked. He who previously asked for it almost every night had held back, unable to bear seeing his wife so tired. Are you tired? Jungkook asked gently as he watched his wife prepare for bed. There's a lot of work at the office, Yin replied half-heartedly. Do you want to go straight to sleep? Yes. Jungkook, good night. Her response left Jungkook disappointed. Why was his wife pushing herself so hard? A week had passed, and Jungkook could no longer stand it. A week without being intimate with his wife was driving him crazy. He missed her terribly. So, that night, after Yin came home, Jungkook couldn't help but press her for it. 2 hours later, Jungkook smiled softly as he looked at Yin's tired face. They gazed at each other, lying on their sides. He brushed aside a strand of hair that was covering her beautiful face. Both were wrapped in a thick blanket, covering their bodies. Jungkook lifted her hand, kissing it gently without breaking eye contact with her. Then, his eyes shifted to her hand, noticing something different. Where's your ring? Jungkook asked suddenly. Yin panicked. I left it at the office. Yeah, it's at the office, she stammered, trying to keep her voice steady despite lying. Jungkook squinted suspiciously. You're not lying to me, are you? Yin laughed nervously. No, Jungkook, the ring's really at the office. Jungkook didn't believe her. Yin's eyes couldn't lie. Since earlier, her beautiful eyes had been looking elsewhere, avoiding his gaze. Are you hiding something from me, Yin? Jungkook asked in a low voice. Yin stayed silent, unsure of how to respond. Her tongue was tied. Being used to speaking the truth made it hard for her to come up with another excuse. Jungkook sighed. Tell me, Yin, before I really get angry. Where's your ring? His voice now sounded cold and intimidating. Yin remained silent, but Jungkook could see the fear on his wife's beautiful face. He gently caressed her cold cheek, trying to soothe the fear he sensed in her. You can tell me, baby. I'm your husband. Jungkook spoke very softly. Yet, to Yin, his voice still sounded cold. She continued to remain quiet. Yin, that wedding ring was something I gave you on purpose. Where is it now? Don't tell me it's lost, Jungkook asked again. Yin still didn't respond, making Jungkook narrow his eyes in suspicion. So it's true? The ring is lost? Where did it go? Baby, answer me. Jungkook's face began to harden. Her silence was only fueling his rising emotions, though he was trying hard to keep them in check. If the ring is really lost, tell me, how did it happen? Jungkook's voice grew more intimidating as Yin continued to stay silent. He had already sat up in bed, still shirtless. This wasn't a trivial matter to him, as that was their wedding ring, one he had specifically chosen for her. It wasn't just about the expensive diamond. The ring was special because he had picked it out and ordered it just for Yin. Answer me, Yin. Jungkook's voice became even more intimidating, laced with deep disappointment. With a deep breath, Yin finally spoke. I used the ring to pay off a debt. I'm sorry, Jungkook. I'm really sorry. What? Are you joking? Jungkook was completely shocked by what his wife had just revealed. This was beyond anything he had expected. I'm not joking. I really used it for the debt. I had no choice but to offer the ring as collateral to the debt collectors. I'm so sorry, Jungkook, Yin said, starting to sob. Jungkook massaged his forehead, feeling completely at a loss. Yin, wasn't the money I gave you enough? I even gave you a black card, yet you used your wedding ring to pay off a debt? Are you serious? I'm sorry, Jungkook. Please don't be mad at me. Alright, I won't get mad, so stop crying, okay? I just need an explanation from you, because none of this makes sense. How could you? Oh my, and why on earth would you still need to owe anything to those sleazy debt collectors when I already gave you the black card? What exactly did you buy, Yin? Yin didn't answer and kept crying. How could this have happened? Jungkook already knew. Would he think her father was a gold digger too? Yin tried to come up with another reason to keep her father out of this mess, but her mind was blank. She couldn't think of any other excuse. Her sobs grew louder, and it felt like her brain had shut down. She had given up on lying. Next to her, Jungkook grew more confused, wondering what was really going on with his wife. Finally, he sighed softly, trying to keep a cool head. Baby, Jungkook called her gently, stroking Yin's head as she lay next to him. Come on, Tell me now, what really happened? I promise I won't get mad. Jungkook continued to stroke her hair gently, trying to coax the truth out of her. Seeing Jungkook's calm demeanor, Yin finally gathered the courage to be honest. She pulled the blanket away from her face, revealing her tear-streaked cheeks. Jungkook smiled gently before wiping the tears from her cheeks. Come on, tell me now, what's really going on? Why did you end up in debt with that loan shark? Yin closed her eyes, holding her breath for a moment. It's not me who's in debt, it's my father. She paused, hesitating as she glanced at him, who was now leaning against the headboard, looking down. Your father? What happened to him? Last Monday, I took a short leave from work to visit my father at home. When I got there, a loan shark was there, demanding repayment and threatening to hurt him. I didn't know that my father's business was struggling. His fried chicken sales had dropped. I promised to pay off his debt, but the loan shark didn't believe me and demanded collateral. That's why Yin paused again, tears streaming down her face as she shared her story with him. She felt like a wife pouring her heart out to her husband. Truthfully, she was deeply ashamed, but it seemed Jungkook now understood her situation. At first, the loan shark wanted the house deed as collateral, but I was terrified that if we couldn't repay the debt, my father would be evicted. That house is the only asset we have, and it holds so many memories of my late mother. Jungkook nodded as he listened attentively to her confession. He waited until Yin seemed calmer before speaking. Alright, tomorrow, don't go to work. Let's go meet that loan shark. But, Jungkook, shh, no more arguing, or I will really get angry with you. Yin quickly sat up but kept herself covered with the blanket. Jungkook, please don't think of my father as a gold digger. It's fine if you think that of me, but not him. Jungkook furrowed his brows, clearly confused and offended by her words. When did I ever say you were a gold digger? Yin lowered her gaze for a moment before daring to look up at him again. I remember you once said you despised poor girls and gold diggers. Jungkook still looked confused and a bit upset at Yin's accusation. In truth, he had never thought badly of his wife, yet here she was accusing him. Back when Yerin confessed to you on the school field, Yin explained. Jungkook's eyes widened, and he let out a small laugh. So, it's because of that. Yin nodded, and Jungkook chuckled again. I don't even like to think about that sly girl. I really hated her. She confessed because she wanted to take advantage of me. My friends and I overheard what she said, which is why her friends cheered for me to accept her. Let's not talk about her anymore. It's disgusting. Oh, so that's what happened. Yin's cheeks flushed. So, because of that, you didn't want to tell me about your problem? And that's why you didn't want to use the money or the black card I gave you? Yin looked down but nodded, and Jungkook sighed. Listen, baby. You are my wife. You are my responsibility. It's my duty to take care of all your needs. If there's a problem, you must talk to me. Don't keep things to yourself like this. Don't torture yourself anymore. I don't like it. Yin nodded, feeling the warmth spread in her heart. Jungkook was truly kind. Thank you, Jungkook, she said sincerely. He kissed her forehead. You're welcome, baby. Remember, no work tomorrow. We need to settle your father's debt. Yin nodded obediently, this time without any intention of arguing with her husband. The next morning, Jungkook and Yin, accompanied by several guards, headed to the loan shark's headquarters. Their luxurious car immediately caught the attention of everyone around. Jungkook held Yin's hand confidently while Yin walked with her head down. I want to see your boss, Jungkook said flatly. What business do you have? One of the guards asked. To pay off my father-in-law's debt. The guard scrutinized Jungkook before nodding and leading them both to the boss's office, followed by one of Jungkook's guards carrying a large bag. Yugyeom, the loan shark boss, quickly stood up in shock when he saw them, more precisely, when he saw Jungkook. Oh, Mr. Jungkook, what brings you here? Jungkook gave a faint smile, while Yin beside him looked confused. Of course, the name Jeon Jungkook was well known among business people and the underground world in Korea, including loan shark bosses who certainly recognized him. I'm here to pay off my father-in-law's debt and to retrieve my wife's diamond ring, Jungkook replied without preamble, his gaze sharp and his tone intimidating. Yugyeom was startled, hurriedly grabbing the diamond ring he had just been admiring earlier. Jungkook's aura was no joke. Here it is. Yugyeom handed over the ring, and Jungkook immediately placed it back on his wife's ring finger. I'm sorry, Mr. Jungkook. I had no idea that Mrs. Yin was your wife. At that time, she said her husband was poor and managed to get the diamond ring because he had stolen it from a jewelry store. Yugyeom explained, his tone slightly nervous. Jungkook smirked and glanced at Yin. His wife grimaced slightly, mouthing an apology without saying anything. Jungkook gestured for one of the guards behind him to place the large bag they had brought in front of Yugyeom. This is the money to settle my father-in-law's debt. I've added extra for you. And I expect you and your men not to bother my father-in-law or my wife again, Jungkook said, his eyes sharp as they bore into Yugyeom, making him swallow hard. Yes sir, thank you. I assure you that will not happen again. Jungkook gave a faint smile. Good, he said before leaving the room, pulling Yin's now cold hand. His wife looked visibly nervous. Jungkook seemed upset, and Yin could sense it. Since getting into the car, he hadn't said a word. He remained silent, and Yin started to feel guilty. She had tried several times to start a conversation, but her husband kept ignoring her. Finally, for the first time, Yin gathered the courage to gently touch and hold his hand first. Honey, I'm sorry. Jungkook glanced briefly at her, but stayed silent, his gaze fixed forward, though he didn't pull his hand away and let her hold it. Jungkook, Yin called softly again. You want me to forgive you? Jungkook asked, and Yin quickly nodded. Quit your job, then I'll forgive you. Yin shook her head. I can't, Jungkook. I've been working for so long. I'd get bored and lonely if I just stayed alone in the apartment, she whined, making him chuckle. His wife was so adorable. Jungkook thought for a moment. Then be my personal assistant. Stop working at that advertising company. I know the salary is small and doesn't match how often you get exhausted. But what about Lee? Yin frowned in confusion. I'll promote Lee to a different position. I'll give him a promotion. You don't need to worry, Jungkook smiled. Yin's once pouting face suddenly brightened, her eyes sparkling, which made Jungkook feel happy. His heart warmed just by seeing her smile. All right then, she said excitedly. Thank you, Jungkook. You're so kind. I love you, Yin muttered shyly. Jungkook was taken aback, his face flushing red to the tips of his ears. Repeat that. What did you just say? Jungkook asked while still trying to focus on driving. No repeats. Yin looked away, feeling too embarrassed for being the first to say it. Jungkook chuckled, his heart swelling with joy. He took her hand, which was still intertwined with his, and kissed it softly. I love you too, baby. So much, Jungkook said sincerely. They both smiled to themselves, feeling light and relieved that they had finally expressed their love for each other. Not only did Jungkook make Yin his personal assistant, but he also provided a large amount of capital to his father-in-law, Dongmin, to help him improve his business. At first, Dongmin refused, but with Jungkook's excellent negotiation skills, his father-in-law eventually accepted. However, Dongmin promised to repay Jungkook the money. That's not necessary, Dad. Just use the money. No need to pay it back, said Jungkook. I can't do that, Jungkook. You've already helped us so much. I don't want to be more indebted to you, Dongmin replied. Jungkook thought for a moment, his sharp mind working quickly. How about this? You don't have to repay the money, but in return, I'll take 5% of the profits you make. That way, we'll become business partners. How does that sound? Dongmin's eyes lit up, a sign that he agreed with Jungkook's proposal. But are you sure about that? I could even offer more than 5% of the profits, Jungkook. Jungkook quickly shook his head. No need, Dad. You'll be running the business operations, so there's no need to give me more than 5%. Do we have a deal? Dongmin, overwhelmed with emotion, hugged Jungkook, expressing his gratitude and happiness. Thank you, Jungkook. You're truly kind. Besides Jungkook, Yin unknowingly shed tears of joy. Watching the two incredible men in her life filled her with endless gratitude. Thank you, Jungkook, my love.